Okay, Crazy Frank here, Half-Cut Gunsmithing, Fresno, California. I did a video not long ago on a Ruger Mark 1, or I believe it was a Mark 2, they're about the same, for light strikes. Well, this is a Browning Buckmark. This is the UDX model. There's a gentleman that has a video on YouTube showing you how to handle a light strike problem. But it's a little different because the UDX is not built quite the same as the one that he showed you. So I want to share this with you and help you to solve that problem if you have it. Like he said, some of them have Allen screws here, but the UDX has regular screws. Remove those two screws. And I like the magnetic bowls. Everything becomes magnetized and it can be a booger sometimes, getting stuff to release. But take off the top, the sight rail, and some of the other models have a third screw. This was made in 1990. It shows very little wear. They have a lock washer here, and I've actually made a spacer for the back. Reason being, it was actually rubbing the slide, and that was impeding the proper operation. So I made a small spacer, which I've just dropped on the floor. Anyway, at this point you have to remove this spring, and that's where a lot of it is different. They had lost this buffer, and we've now replaced it, and that really helped the gun out a lot, but we still did suffer some light strikes. On the other models, the firing pin is in a piece that this spring attaches to. This is a little different. The firing pin is in the slide itself. What you have to do is, you can see the firing pin, and it's held in place with a small roll pin. So take a punch and knock out that roll pin, and I wouldn't take it out all the way. I would just knock it through far enough to release the firing pin. And it has released. You can now take out the firing pin. The spring is still in there. I can see it. It's getting ready to jump out, and I don't want it to. Your pin is still there. You don't have to worry about losing it, and you can set this aside. Your firing pin, I've said this in other videos, it doesn't hurt to dry fire a gun. It does rim fire guns, but a center fired gun, it doesn't hurt them, and very, very rare exceptions, you can dry fire a regular pistol without any harm. If this had been dry fired a lot, you would maybe see some wear on the bottom half of the firing pin, but there's no wear showing. But it was only protruding into this area where the back of the round sits a tiny bit, and it was suffering some light strikes. You put it in a vise and you file the back side of your firing pin to make this slot a little bit longer, and this pin is a firing pin stop as well as locating the firing pin. So once you've elongated that slightly, and don't get carried away, you don't want to puncture the primer area, you just want to hit it hard enough to make it fire. So I've taken probably 5/7 thousandths with my round file, filing the back of it, and then you just have to take and put it back in, and it'll pick up this notch right here, will pick up the spring, pushing it forward with something, it makes no difference what, push it forward, it'll pick up the spring, and then you can just push down on the firing pin, and that'll hold it to start your pin. Then you can drive your pin, and it doesn't go all the way through. Just make it so that it's flush or a little bit inside of the slide. Now you're ready to go. It will now protrude a little bit further. It's spring loaded, but now you should get a good firm strike on the back of the round and solve the light strike problem. You can then put this back on the gun, and you're going to have to put your spring back in, which it's not too difficult. Once that's in place, this has to be orientated correctly. It's got a flat bottom and kind of a peak top. Slide it up a little bit on your spring, and it should fit right down into the groove. Should. This is probably the most difficult part, is the insertion of this plastic piece into the slide. Okay, it's in. Now we have to put the top on, but like I told you, I dropped it on the floor. But I dropped everything, so that shouldn't surprise anybody. I just have to find it. Where did it go? God darn it. There it is. Okay. So this is the little spacer that I made for the slide. And it just keeps everything free. And I think that's very important. Put the lock washer on top of the hole. You're going to set this now on top of the gun. Put your small screw in the front. Start it. The long screw goes in the back, going through your spacer that you made. Now you may not need a spacer in the back, but this gun needed it. Tighten up your screws, and these screws need to be snug. You don't have to get carried away, but just make sure that they're tight enough. I've heard stories of light strikes being caused by these being loose, but I think that's the other style, not the UDX. Nice and free, and I don't like to dry fire them unless necessary, but now it's nice and free, and you have fixed your light strike problem. So it's a simple fix, something that you can do, and silly to pay somebody to do a simple fix like this. These are just really, really nice guns. We took it out to the range, fired it, no problem. The first time we went, we did suffer some light strikes, but after we made this correction, it solved the problem. So it's a simple fix, something you can do. I would recommend you trying it. Don't go and buy a new firing pin. If the front is nice and flat and shows no wear, there's been no harm done by dry firing it, and you're good to go. That's it. Crazy Frank signing out.
You say